Very good afternoon to everybody here, including my co-panelists. Yeah, this has been absolutely very fascinating in terms of a lot of ideas and insights which have been thrown open to on this session by our co-panelists. In fact, let me try to just quickly look back on what has been discussed so far. We had a good reflections coming from Dr. Gangopadhyay, who talked about Sri Lanka and Odisha relations, and also had a lot of policy interventions in certain ways about how to develop and based on that historical linkage, how do we develop these collaborations further, something like that. And particularly now, as we look at the kind of conversation that we had with Nila's paper, something which is very interesting. In fact, what drew me to that paper was the idea of, these categories of nation doesn't hold, as he was trying to argue very passionately, saying that that was the time when you try to look back, then this categories of nation doesn't hold. And in that context, he was trying to look at a rather larger, non-hegemonic liberal order. That is how one has to look at Southeast Asia at that, from that point of view. Whenever we are talking about these connections, why not also think of a kind of order? What that is order. He was trying to problematize that order, but again, the kind of interjections which has come from obviously one of the very leading eminent thinkers of our time, Anandji, is about how to problematize ocean versus sea. That is what she was trying to propose. As he was trying to also point to some of the major works in that regime, which has come in the recent past, including Sugata Bose, where we need to think of Southeast Asia and Kalinga connections, or Southeast Asia Indian connection, not only from a kind of very given, or what do you call these shibboleths, that these connections between two terra space existed or something like that, but we need to go beyond that. That oceanic term, that has to be problematized. And how do we problematize this is the challenge for historiography, as towards the last speaker, very interestingly said. He was a self-disclaimer saying that he is not into historiography, he is an anthropologist, but obviously historiography is, the scope and the gauge of historiography is no more, confined to history anymore. It is a lot of interdisciplinarity, lot of disciplinary practices are getting into it. So whenever we are trying to conceptualize a theme like this connect between Kalinga and Southeast Asia, we are obviously thinking of the present, thinking of our own identity, something like that. So coming back to that interesting paper by Nila, where he tried to talk about this, I would say that it was a larger cosmological order that we have to also envisage. And this is where this thing has to be, this question from this, at least observation from Anandji has to be, responded to. This is how I look at it. Now, obviously, when the last paper, which was by Gangopadhyay, he was trying to problematize Kalinga, Kling, and also along with Nile, and he was trying to talk about a lot of works which have really been done in the recent times, including the archaeological research, archaeological works, and trying to make a subtle nuanced distinction between nationalist, post-nationalist paradigm and something like that. but after getting into all these papers, some of the silences, some of the gaps which can still be visible, obviously not from the point of view of the scholars who have presented very interesting papers, but at least to a historian, what strikes immediately when he thinks of a theme like this is basically what I feel, that where did the historiography itself has a oceanic turn. If we go back to the historiographic discourse, then obviously the first thing that comes to mind, because of history being framed in a typical modernist orientation and with post-enlightenment tradition or rationalist tradition, so we immediately encounter Braudel, Annales School in 1949, who talked about Mediterranean. But then again, he was talking about these three empires, like Jewish, Islam, and the Christian empires. But I think that was one of the major turns in whenever we try to look at modern history, that ocean turn came. But for South Asia, and this, when we try to specifically map this Southeast Asian connection, then the turn perhaps came with many people, like N.K. Chaudhary's 1985 works, or after that, Sanjay Subramaniam or Daud Ali, or for that matter, in the recent times, whether it is Leela Mukherjee or Sugata Bose, and particularly what has really kept my interest very, passionately with this book is called by, Sundaram, this Sujit Sundaram, who tries to talk about, a kind of post-decolonial perspective. He tries to see that why not provincialize the ocean, how to, in the line of provincializing Europe, he is trying to talk about provincializing ocean. So if you look at this genre of writings, where we see a kind of perspective which is coming up, that one has to see this current geopolitical dynamics, plus the question of social history, For example, from the Odyssean context, I can at least immediately cite one very interesting book called Rangoon Gita, which was authored in 1922, which talks about the Odias migrating to Rangoon, and how they look at this state and the society at that point of time. And this is a kind of conversation between a wife and a husband, and they are trying to reflect on the nature of this society that is in Southeast Asia, and the sea voyage, and the kind of trauma associated with this, migration, this diasporic community that are going. So this is one thing, that this is a lot of emotion, lot of sentiments are getting associated with this kind of, reflections. So what Sugata Bose is trying to talk about very interestingly in his book, that what is more important is to look at a kind of subaltern seascape, where you find emotional, ideological, and very popular dimensions of maritime space. This is something to do with affective geographies, insurgent visions, dreams, political hopes, sacred beings, anti-colonial solidarities. And so this is something that one has to think of as far as when we try to problematize ocean, and also see these connections. And there is also to think of cosmological concepts, political longings. Similarly, when we get on to the work of Sundaram, is a very interesting discourse, which very clearly hammers at the Eurocentric epistemes that have shaped much of our maritime historiography. In texts such as Waves Across the South 2020 and also Island 2013, He challenges colonial mappings, the sea as empty, chattable space, what he calls the imperial oceanic imaginary, and restores the agency of indigenous seafarers, navigators, cosmologists. In this oceanic turn, aligning strongly with efforts to reframe the Indian Ocean as a world made through local knowledge, ritual, community-based navigation. So this is what provincializing Europe ocean could mean, where you try to get into the life worlds of pilots, astrologers, boat rides, map makers, monks, missionaries, many people, those who have been silenced, those who have so far been disadvantaged by a historical discourse, they come into the picture. So it is time that as we try to look at these connections or try to problematize the ocean, these are the people, their agencies become very important, become very seminal, that we need to also engage with. So this is what could be a kind of shift in the epistemic engagement. I'll also finally conclude with Leela Mukherjee's book, which also is very important, which came in 2022, called India in the Indian Ocean World, from the earliest times to 1800. So she departs from the older empire-centric and diffusionist model and privileges port points, not imperial capitals, as the key units of analysis. These were fluid nodes of ritual convergences and economic encounter, often situated on the edges of territorial empires, yet central to trans-regional connectivity. Her framing of sites like Palur, a port in ancient Kalinga mentioned by Ptolemy, evidenced by Buddhist archaeological remains, reveals how maritime South Asia was structured around non-linear networks. You all know how this connection of Palur or this port near Dhamara was very vibrant at that point of time. Mukherjee emphasizes multi-scalar agencies, foregrounding not only kings or guild elites, but also monks, artisans, boat builders, temple priests, fisher folk, local patrons, many other people. The sea becomes a contested site. It becomes a contested commons, a space where sacred economies were co-constructed and where knowledge and sovereignty were constantly renegotiated. So she also brings into our view the idea of you thinking of loops, networks and feedbacks to understand oceanic historiography. Rather than viewing influence as one way or this idea of diffusionism or center-periphery binary, some of these theses which have already afflicted our intellectual landscape needs to be broken, needs to be somewhat challenged by looking at a lot of conceptual technology, bringing a lot of conceptual technology like this into our account. So finally, I'll not try to get into some of these writings anymore because of paucity of time. We have been asked to wind up this session quite soon. So what I would like to suggest that as we engage with the question of exploring what could have been the possible thriving, the possible nature of connection between Kalinga and Southeast Asia, and the road ahead and the roadmap for us as we do this seminar, this conference here. How do we translate into a policy intervention? How do we try to look back and feel proud of our very proud past or very thriving past, and how we try to translate some of these ideas into action, some kind of realistic models. Then we also need to engage with this whole range of works that have come in the last decade or so, and try to see, what ideas and insights they are throwing up, and whether it is a question of looking at whether from this terra-centric, terra-biased understanding to getting into an aquatic whole cosmology. How we do that, how this shift comes into play, and in the context of geopolitics, in the context of the expected developed economy by 2036 or 2047, how do we approach this idea of water, sea and ocean today is the major challenge for all of us. And I think some of these presentations, along with the kind of new thoughts and the kind of research into archaeology, history, anthropology and social history, the way they have produced the imaginary, these needs to be framed into much larger discourses, bringing in a lot of multidisciplinarity into play. Thank you very much.